Hey guys, today I'm going to start a new series here on my channel where we talk about makeup that's on its last chance. So we're going to be going through all my eyeshadow palettes today and deciding which of them that I'm definitely going to keep and which of them are going on the chopping block for consideration in decluttering. So the style is like a declutter, but I'm not actually getting rid of anything. So you can think of it as a declutter precursor, or a pre-clutter, if you will. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay, so this is my first drawer of eyeshadow palettes that we're gonna be sorting out. And we're just gonna go through them one by one and see which ones I definitely wanna keep and which ones should go in the chopping block pile. So the Modern Renaissance, right? Who doesn't like this palette? I probably like it less than a lot of other people do, but I still do really enjoy this. I think the quality is great and I do like the color, so I'll definitely be keeping that one. Next up is the Lorac Unzipped Desert Sunset palette, and this palette I haven't had for very long, and I think that the colors are absolutely beautiful. And I've only used this a couple times, but it blends beautifully. I think that the formula in this palette is better than in the original Unzipped palette, which I also have. And since we're talking about it, let's go ahead and dig out the original Lorac Unzipped palette. So this is the one with kind of the mauve-y color scheme, and I absolutely love this palette as well. The Naked 3 palette was the first eyeshadow palette that I ever bought, and this has a very similar color scheme, but I think the quality is better, and I think all around this is just a better palette, so definitely keeping that one as well. Alright, now we have the Tarte Pro to go, and this little palette really is good quality. I really enjoyed the Tarte Pro large palette. That's in another drawer, we'll get to it. And this one was supposed to be the companion to that one, and I feel like the formula is in these mattes is even better than that one. This one has very soft mattes and the shimmery shades are beautiful as well. But that being said, I never reach for this, so I think this is gonna go in the chopping block pile. Now let's talk about these Huda Beauty Obsessions palettes. So I have 3 of them. This is the Warm Brown Obsessions, and these palettes are absolutely beautiful. I talked about them in my yearly favorites videos. Here's the Mauve Obsessions one, and the quality on here is just really, really nice. The mattes are beautiful, the shimmers are beautiful. This one's the Smoky Obsessions, which is probably my least favorite of the 3, but still really, really nice quality. So definitely holding on to all 3 of these. Now the Balm Nude Beach palette. This is another one that's pretty new to my collection, and I really enjoy the color scheme in this one. How you have these really pretty warm shades, but also you have some pinks and purples in there too. These are really my favorite kind of colors to work with, so definitely keeping that one. Let's go ahead and talk about all my chocolate bar palettes. So here is the Too Faced Chocolate Gold palette. I haven't had this for very long, obviously, because it hasn't been out for very long. And so I haven't really gotten a chance to play with all the colors yet, and I haven't really seen what this palette can do, so I'm gonna keep that so I can play around with it more. And then I have the original chocolate bar here, and I really, really did enjoy this when I first got it because I didn't have as many palettes at the time, and I don't find myself reaching for this ever, even though there are a lot of pretty shades in here, but some of them I just never use. Like these 3 are all really glittery and I'm not into it, so I'm actually gonna put this in the chopping block pile. Next up is the Too Faced Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar, and this is another pretty recent addition to my collection. I think I like this one more than I like the original chocolate bar because you do get a nice selection of warm and cool tone shades in here, and there are fewer of those stupid glitter infused shades that I dislike so much, so definitely gonna hold on to this one. And next is the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. I'm really into these scented palettes, I don't know if you could tell. And this one I also don't find myself reaching for very often, and it's not because I don't like the colors, it's just because I have so many other things that I tend to reach for more than this. So I think this is going to go in the chopping block pile as well. Next is the original Lorac Pro palette. And there's nothing wrong with the quality of these. It's just that the colors are pretty boring. And the Lorac shadows are really nice. They're very soft and they blend easily, but they do have a tendency to muddy together, so a lot of these end up looking the same once they're on the eye. And I know this is a staple palette for a lot of people, but for me, it just doesn't impress me that much. So this is gonna go in the chopping block pile. Right, let's talk about the Anastasia Beverly Hills Prism palette, which was a holiday release for holiday 2017. And this palette is beautiful. I really, really enjoy this. I haven't gotten to use it as much as I would like to, but the times that I have used it, I've really enjoyed it. I just really like the interesting color combinations that they have, and I feel like the quality is really good on this as well. So definitely holding on to that. Next is the infamous Naked 3 palette. I say infamous only because I mentioned it a few minutes ago, that it was my first high-end eyeshadow palette. And these colors drew me in when I got it. They still do draw me in, but there are so few matte shades in this palette that it's hard to get a complete look out of it that actually looks different from the last one. And there are also just a lot of similar color tones in here. And I never reach for this. I can't even tell you the last time I used this. So this is definitely in the chopping block pile. I have two of these Wet n Wild palettes. I have the Petal Pusher, which is the purple one, and the Comfort Zone palette, which is this one. I haven't really used these that much, but based on my initial swatching and the few times I have used them on the eyes, I'm just not super impressed by them, which surprised me because people talk so highly about the Wet n Wild eyeshadows. So I think that these are going to go in the chopping block pile. Remember that I'm not actually getting rid of anything right now. It's just that I'm going to make a special effort to use all the eyeshadow palettes that end up in that pile of last chance makeup and then decide whether or not I want to keep them. So those are going to go over there. Next up is the Too Faced I Want Candy palette, and this was one of the palettes that I mentioned in my 2017 favorites video. This really is a beautiful neutral palette. You have kind of warmer, and then you have these cooler ones over here, and then some neutral shades in here, and every shade in this palette is really, really pretty. So I'm definitely not getting rid of this one. Next we have the Tarte Clay Play Volume 1 palette, and this I thought was really boring when I initially saw it released, but now I really enjoy this. So I like that all of these are mattes, and this is a great contour shade for me. I can use this as bronzer, and I use this as eyeshadow a lot, and all of these shades are really nice. They're the Amazonian Clay formula, which is my favorite formula from Tarte, and I just like that I can pull this in anytime that I need some staple mattes, and this is going to do the job. So definitely keeping that one. Next up is the Balm Meet Matrimony palette, and to be honest, I don't use this very much. I do have an emotional attachment to this one because it's called Meet Matrimony. I used it on my wedding day. There's no problem with these colors. I just think I need to use it more. But because my life really wouldn't be any worse off without it, I'm going to put it in the chopping block pile. I have another all matte palette here. This is the Ulta Beauty Matte Neutrals eyeshadow palette, and the quality on this is actually really, really good. So here are the shades right here. You can see you have a good assortment of nice matte shadows, and like I said, this actually really impresses me with the quality here. And I want to compare that to the Urban Decay Naked Ultimate Basics palette because I feel like there's a lot of similar shades in here. So another all matte palette. This is one that I really find myself not reaching for a whole lot, and I don't know if it's because I just forget that I have it or what. So I'm actually going to put this one and the Ulta one both in the chopping block last chance pile, and I think I'm only going to be keeping one of them when I eventually do that declutter, because I don't really need both of these. The last one that was in this drawer is the IT Cosmetics Naturally Pretty palette, another all matte palette. And this one I literally never use. When you look at it, the colors look pretty, but I think that these are so boring. They're not very pigmented. They muddy together like crazy, so they all look exactly the same when you get them on the eye. And I heard Emily Noel 83 talk really highly about this, but I just don't really like this. So this is definitely going in the chopping block. Okay, we've got the second drawer of eyeshadow palettes out now. Let's start with the Nars Narcissist Loaded palette. And you can see this one has a lot of warm colors, but also has some cooler tones in here as well, like this navy blue and the dark brown. And I do like this palette. I think the quality is pretty good, but I don't find myself reaching for this ever. So that's gonna go in chopping block. This is another one that I have a really emotional attachment to. It's the Tarte Graveyard Girl Swamp Queen palette. This was one of my earlier palettes. And also Bunny is one of my favorite YouTubers, so I really like it for this reason. It does come with a bronzer, a blush, and a highlight. None of these are particularly good. There's glitter in all of them, the highlighter especially. And you can see there's tons of glitter in here, there's a little bit of glitter in here. There's just a lot of glitter going on in this palette, which I don't enjoy. I do like the color scheme of the shadows. Whoops. So I really like that it has a lot of warmer tones, but also some purples as well. And I like that the idea behind this, that it was supposed to be kind of an all-in-one palette, but I find most of these face shades to be pretty unusable. For the reason that I never reach for this, I'm gonna put it in the chopping block pile. The Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes. I think this is a great palette. I love the scent, I love the packaging, I really love the colors, and the quality in here is great. So when I am looking for matte, warm eyeshadows, this is a great place to go. But it does also have some options that can take you in a cooler direction as well. So I am definitely keeping this one. Next is the Pure Cosmetics Trolls eyeshadow palette, and this eyeshadow palette is great. The quality is really nice in here. I like that there's some color in here, and you can take it in a more wild direction, but this can also be really easily an everyday neutral kind of palette, so I really enjoy this one. I also love the Trolls movie, by the way. And next is the Nubian by Juvia's Place, and I talked about this in my, mediocre products that everyone else seems to love. And there's really nothing significant that's wrong about this. I just find it boring. And with all the other eyeshadow palettes I have, I don't find myself reaching for this one. So I'm gonna put this in the chopping block pile. Now we're gonna go through the ColourPop eyeshadow palettes that I have. So here I have the Dream Street palette, which was a Kathleen Lights collaboration. And I do really enjoy these colors. I like the pops of blue here. I like that it has corals and kind of rose gold colors. And this is a pretty new addition, obviously, because it hasn't been out for that long. So I haven't gotten a chance to play around with this a whole lot yet. So keeping that one. The You Had Me at Hello. So funny story about this one, these two shades are not supposed to be exactly the same, but they are in mine. So I need to contact ColourPop and get a replacement. Again, I haven't had this for that long, haven't used it a whole lot. Not like incredibly inspiring to me for whatever reason. All right, and then I have the, what is this called? I have the Yes Please palette. And this is their really warm toned one. I have a ton of warm shadows, but I really do like this one. I like the ColourPop formula, so we'll keep that one. The Element of Surprise. This is the one with the bright pink in it. And this one I find a little bit more inspiring than some of the other ones, so I do want to hold on to that. Then we have the Femme Rosa palette, or is it called the She palette? I don't know. Anyway, this one I find pretty uninspiring. All these shades look pretty similar. Not all the shimmers are great quality. The mattes are good, but there's not a matte cream shade or like a deeper brown, so I have a hard time using this by itself. So I think I'm going to put this in the chopping block pile. And then the last ColourPop palette that I have is the All I See Is Magic. And this one has a really nice variety of colors in it as well. I haven't played with this a ton because I got it right before Christmas, so I'm going to hold on to that as well. Next, I have the Tartelette Toasted and the Tartelette in Bloom. I will be keeping both of these. This glitter shade right here is a lot like the one in Bunny's palette, but if you tap it off enough, then all the glitter goes away, so that works out pretty well. And the rest of these are really, really nice. And then the Tartelette in Bloom is a really good staple palette. I take this traveling a lot just because you have kind of a cooler and a neutral and then more of a rosy toned row, so you can get a lot of variety out of this, and a lot of these shades will work on the face as well, so keeping that for sure. And then these next two are from BH Cosmetics. These are the Marble Collection Cool Stone and Warm Stone. So this one has some pinks and purples and blues in it, and then this one is a little bit more warmer toned. Whoops. As you can see there. And neither of these are terrible quality, but they're also not, you know, great quality. I have some palettes from BH Cosmetics that we'll get to in a couple minutes that I think are a lot better than this. So these are definitely going in the chopping block pile. So Anastasia Master Palette by Mario. I was not impressed by this as much as a lot of other people were. So my issue with this is that here you have your three matte shades, but they're all kind of mid-tone. You have no lighter matte color for like highlighting, you have no real deeper color, and then you have 5 colors here that all look really, really similar on the eye, and then these two look pretty similar on the eye. And I just think there was so much overlap in here, and we could have had a lot more of a complete palette if they had, you know, made some different choices in the colors that they included. So this is going in the chopping block pile. I have the Ciate Pretty Fun and Fearless palette, which was a collaboration with Chloe Morello. And this is really nice. I like that you have warm tones, and then you have these kind of purpley shades down here and some nice mid-tones. And there's a lot that you can do with this palette. I think it's really versatile. And the only thing that I'm not crazy about is these shimmery colors are kind of hard to transfer onto the eyes with a wet brush. This really is good. I just don't reach for it. Again, I don't reach for it very much. So I'm going to put that in the chopping block pile. Now what I do really like is the second version, volume 2 of the Pretty Fun and Fearless Ciate Chloe Morello palette. This one, I think the quality is a lot better. I think the shadow formula is completely different than it was in the first one. And I like the color variation that they've done here. I like that there's a lot of different directions you can go. And I think that this is a good palette, so I'm going to be keeping that one. All right, this is the Sephora brand Mixology palette, and I'm not really sure why I bought this, to be completely honest. Maybe because the pans look cool. But, you know, there's a pretty good color selection, but nothing special about it, so this is definitely going in the chopping block pile. All right, ooh, look at that. It's mesmerizing, isn't it? Okay. So this is the Smashbox Cover Shot Ablaze palette, and this one, as you can see, is definitely warm toned with some berry thrown in there, a lot like the Modern Renaissance palette. And even though I have a lot of colors like this and I don't necessarily reach for this all the time, I do think it's good quality. I love the packaging of it, and I think it's kind of like a more compact version of the Modern Renaissance, so it's good for travel because of that, and so I want to hold on to it. It was also a gift. See, I told you we'd get to this one, the Tarte Pro palette from Tarte. And this is their Amazonian clay formula. So all of these are mattes, and then you have these 4 shimmery shades over here. And I really, really do enjoy this palette. I think that the colors are really pigmented, but they're still easy to blend. When you just touch them with your finger, it doesn't seem like they're gonna be very good, but they are. So I really enjoy this palette, and I will not be getting rid of that. Next we have the Violet Voss and Laura Lee palette, and I definitely don't think that this is a bad palette. I don't get a ton of use out of this. I do want to hold on to it because it has some interesting colors, like Smash Lee is a really beautiful green, and you know, I like this Alabama color. I like a lot of these colors. I'm gonna hold on to this for now. Next is this small Dream Big palette. Ironic that it's so small. And even though this doesn't look super impressive, the quality in here is really nice, and I take this traveling a lot because it covers a lot of staple colors. You've got a nice matte brown and a matte cream and some nice shimmers here, so I am gonna be holding on to this. And now we have the Tarte Maneater palette, and I really love this palette. These colors are beautiful, and every shade in here is good quality. So one of the other palettes that we'll get to in a couple of minutes is the Tarte Sex Kitten, which is the same kind of layout with the 8 pans. And that one is very inconsistent. In this one, all of them are good, and I just love the colors. So keeping that one. Then we have the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself eyeshadow palette. This was kind of like their unicorn one. And this is really, really nice. So these shades are really foiled and metallic, except this one, which is matte. And then you've got a highlighter, which I don't personally use on my face, but it's nice to highlight the inner corner. So this is great when I want a pop of really metallic color. So I'm gonna be holding on to this one. So here's that Tarte Sex Kitten one that I was just talking about. And this one, you know, has some cooler tone shades in it, and some of them are really good, but this shade over here especially is terrible. It's so glittery and chunky, and I really do like this pinky shade, but I wish that they hadn't put glitter in it because it makes me mad. So you can see there's glitter fallout everywhere from this one, and so that's why this one, being the colors that I don't like love these colors, and I don't reach for this a lot, but to be honest, I just love that it's called Sex Kitten. I love the packaging. That's a stupid reason to keep a palette though, so I'm gonna put this in the chopping block pile. And then this is the Pretty Vulgar Pretty Birdie palette, and I really love the layout and the packaging on this one, and this does have some nice colors to it. But I find that when I want a pop of color, I've been reaching for the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself over this one. So I'm going to put this in the chopping block pile as well. Alright, let's get this one out of the way because of the reflection. So this was the Sephora Moschino collaboration collection, and this palette is beautiful. I love the colors in here. The top half kind of gives you that modern Renaissance vibe, but then you've got these nice blues down here and some purple, and the quality on this is just excellent, and it looks so cute on my vanity, so definitely keeping this one. Alright, this is the Kat Von D Saint and Sinner palette, which was a holiday time-ish release for 2017. And the colors in here are beautiful, but when I look at this, I feel stupid. So you can see, let me grab the Prism palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. There's kind of a similar color scheme going on here, but with the Prism palette, I feel inspired, and when it comes to this Kat Von D palette, I just feel stupid. But I haven't used this adequately enough to really make a determination one way or the other, so I'm going to be keeping that. Plus, this is just beautiful, and I can't get rid of it. Alright, now we have the BH Cosmetics Carly Bible. This is the Deluxe palette, and I mentioned this in my yearly favorites. I think this is just a great palette. I think the colors are beautiful, the quality is great. Too many highlighters for my personal liking, but they also double as eyeshadows, so it works out. And I think this is just a good overall palette, so I'll be keeping that. I have these Sephora Pro palettes. I have the warm one and the cool one. I mentioned the warm one in my yearly favorites as well. So I think that these colors are beautiful. I think the quality is really good. So I will be keeping that one. Now the cool toned one that's a little bit trickier because this one I haven't gotten as much use out of, and the quality is still good, but the colors are just kind of boring, and there ends up not being like a ton of variety in here. So but there are a couple of these cool tone browns that I absolutely love. I think I am gonna hold on to this for now. Obviously, I'm holding on to everything for now, but you know what I mean. All right, the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette was one of the other ones that I mentioned in my yearly favorites, and this is just a beautiful palette. So you can see you get a lot of warm tones in here, but you also do get some, you know, kind of jewel tones down here, as well as some greens and some deeper colors. Really kind of everything that you need is in here except a matte cream shade. But it's not like I don't have any of those floating around. So this is a great palette and great quality. We'll definitely be holding on to that. So I have Lorac Pro. I have the 2, 3, and 4, the Mega Pro. The Mega Pro 4 definitely has an interesting color selection in here. And they are pretty, but these pastels are not really my colors. I need to use this a little bit more, just like most of these, to really decide if I like it or not. I think I will be holding on to all 3 of these just because there's so much to work with. But we'll go through and just show you what the other ones look like. There's the Mega Pro 2, and this one had, you know, a good variety of colors going for it as well. And then even though the 3 is probably the most boring, it's probably my favorite. And this one I've gotten a lot of use out of, especially this Rose Quartz shade is the prettiest eyeshadow ever in the world. So I really love this one, and I won't be getting rid of that, like, ever. All right, last one. We have the BH Cosmetics Zodiac palette. Look at that hollow. Ooh. Okay. And this palette is stunning as well. So you get a highlight shade in the very center that I haven't used on my face, but again, good for inner corner highlighting. You get these really nice matte shades around here, and then these foiled kind of baked shadows around the edge there. And these are all really beautiful. So keeping that. So this clip came over without audio, so we're going to do a voiceover. I forgot to mention in the original video my single shadows. So these are all my matte single shadows from ColourPop, and they're in this Tarte palette. I do enjoy these, just like everything else. Don't use them enough, but I'm going to be keeping that. And then I have another one of these Tarte palettes that has all my shimmer single shadows. And all of those are also from ColourPop, except this one at the bottom is from the Sephora collection. And I enjoy those as well, so we'll be keeping those. The other 2 are Tarte palettes that I already had in my declutter pile, which is why I forgot to mention them initially. So this one is the original Rainforest of the Sea palette, and I think the only reason I hung on to it for so long is because the packaging is so pretty. But the color selection is quite boring, and the shimmers are pretty. However, the matte shades, the 2 matte shades, are terrible, and they're very hard to work with. I find them to be extremely difficult to blend with a brush, and I just don't like the formula. And then the other palette is this Tarte Make Magic Happen palette. And I was sucked into this one by the packaging as well. The colors, again, are pretty but very basic and very boring. And it says that this is the Amazonian clay formula, which I do enjoy. But this is absolutely not their Amazonian clay formula. This is definitely, it feels like the Rainforest of the Sea eyeshadow formula, which I do not like. So this one will be staying in the declutter pile. I hope you enjoyed my eyeshadow pre-clutter or last chance makeup, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!